The 1920s was a time of jazz, organized crime, and prohibition. Gangsters were on the brink of a new age of money and power, and with the world in an economic depression and prohibition laws in the U.S., jobs were scarce and men needed to provide for their families. So many turned to organized crime as a way of life. Some of the most notorious criminals of this time include mobsters like Al Capone, Bonnie and Clyde, and John Dillinger. The life of a gangster was very dangerous, but brought in fast and easy money. In January of 1920, the United States government banned the sale of alcohol. This was intended to reduce the amount of crime in the country, but that's not the case at all. In fact, it increased the crime rate tremendously and the violence escalated. To make more money, organized crime started making and selling alcohol of their own. This led to bootlegging. Many people ignored these laws and went to bars called speakeasies. This was an illegal bar where people could go drink alcohol while hiding from the law. These bars got their name because there was usually a password that you had to recite to gain access inside the bar. Many organized gangs realized that this was a big moneymaker for them, so they began to import alcohol from places like Canada and the Caribbean. Also, many gangs had their own distilleries and had to avoid being arrested when caught. They would make deals with the local law enforcement agents and bribe them. In many locations, gangsters had a free hand to engage in illegal booze business. Also, automobiles were modified to outrun police cars and store more alcohol in them in hidden compartments. In 1970, Congress passed the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, which proved to be a powerful tool in the government's war on the mafia, as it allowed prosecutors to go after crime families and their sources of revenue, both legal and illegal. By the start of the 21st century, the American mafia was almost completely diminished. However, the mafia remained active in some of its traditional ventures, such as illegal gambling, but some of these gangs were still active, and possibly because after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, the government spent more time and effort in anti-terrorist work rather than these gangs. One of the most famous mobsters was Al Capone. Capone was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1899. He quit school after the 6th grade and joined a notorious street gang. He worked his way up to the top by hard work and dedication to the gang. In 1925, he became the leader of the gang after the boss was seriously wounded in an assassination attempt. On February 28, 1931, Capone was found guilty in federal court on the contempt of court charge and was sentenced to 6 months in Cook County Jail. The U.S. Treasury Department had been developing evidence on tax evasion charges on Al Capone as well. On November 16, 1939, Al Capone was released after having served 7 years, 6 months, and 15 days, and having paid all fines and back taxes. He later died due to a stroke and pneumonia on January 25, 1947. Most gangsters were out of the picture for good at this point, and organized crime disappeared into the wind, and the Roaring Twenties were over in the blink of an eye.